Welcome to the third part of Club 20's three-part series on the issues that we'll be seeing on the ballot this coming November. My name is Christian Reese and I'm the Executive Director of Club 20, who's bringing you today's presentation. Club 20 is a nonpartisan coalition tasked with advocating on behalf of all of Western Colorado on issues at the state and federal level. We are a membership organization and we have more than 1,200 members who work to promote and protect all that is Western Colorado. For more information on Club 20 or how you can get involved, please visit club20.org. So what is a proposition anyway, other than a part of speech? A proposition can propose a new law or can change existing law. They're initiated by the citizens of Colorado, and they can also be called statutory changes or statutory amendments. We have a couple propositions on the November ballot this year. The first one is Proposition 106, and it's regarding medical aid in dying. I'm sure you've all heard about what has happened throughout our country, particularly in Oregon, with the folks who would like to have the right to die or to end their life in a more humane and dignified manner. Proposition 106 would allow a terminally ill individual with a prognosis of 6 months or less to live to request end-of-life medication, and then they would have to take that medication themselves voluntarily. It would authorize a physician to prescribe medical end-of-life medication to a terminally ill individual under certain conditions. And it would create criminal penalties for tampering with a person's request for medical aid in dying medication or for knowingly coercing a person with a terminal illness into requesting this end-of-life medication. So how this would work logistically is a person would have to be determined to have 6 months or left to live in their life. 2 independent physicians would have to make this determination. The individual would have to request the medication twice. They would have to request it verbally, and they would have to request it through a written letter. If 2 physicians determine that an individual has 6 months or left to live, the individual would have to take that medication themselves. They could not have a family member help them take that medication, and they would then pass along. It would also exempt physicians from any kind of criminal prosecution from a family member or a concerned friend who had a loved one request and take that medication. Additionally, for physicians who maybe have ethical or religious concerns about prescribing end-of-life medication, those physicians would not be required to prescribe that medication if they didn't feel comfortable doing so. So they could pass that patient and their information on to another physician who maybe has a higher comfort level in prescribing that medication. This was modeled off of the Oregon law that we've seen a lot in the media over the last couple of years. The proponents, or those who are supportive of this measure, certainly tend to be those who have been fighting or struggling with a chronic or terminal illness, who would like to have that option to end their life in perhaps a more dignified and controlled manner than the natural process of dying. The opponents of Proposition 106 have concerns about the actually getting involved in that natural dying process. As you can imagine, folks from religious institutions or who are believers in religion believe that this tampers with God's plan of ending your life and that this is not appropriate and should not be passed. Opponents to Proposition 106 tend to be from the religious community who believe that ending your life with medication interrupts God's plan for you and the natural dying process. There's also some concern over the potential for manipulation from a loved one who maybe has a financial benefit in that individual's death And also, there's some concern that this measure may devalue life and may devalue the end-of-life processes. The proponents can be found at coendoflifeoptions.org, and the opponents can be found at notdeadyet.org. Club 20 does not have a position on this measure. So Proposition 107 would establish a presidential primary election in the state of Colorado that is open to voters who are affiliated with the two major political parties, and also to unaffiliated voters to be able to participate in that presidential primary. Because this would be paid for by all taxpayers, it allows that all taxpayers have the opportunity to be involved in this election. Colorado previously held primaries in 1992, 1996, and 2000, and at that time the state legislature had concerns that the presidential primary was costing the state too much money, and so they chose not to continue on with conducting that presidential primary election. This measure would restore that back to Colorado beginning in presidential year 2020. So the proponents and those who are supportive of this measure of Proposition 107 argue back to our presidential primary in Colorado just a few months ago, and some of the media attention and ruckus that took place around that. They also argue that if taxpayers are going to be paying for this, then unaffiliated voters should be allowed to participate in that presidential primary. They also tell us that this will actually bring some revenue into the state through advertising, through mailing pieces, those types of activities that are associated with a presidential primary election. The opponents of Proposition 107 have concerns about the cost to conduct a presidential primary election. It's estimated that each presidential primary would cost around $5 million. And there's also concern about allowing unaffiliated voters to participate in this presidential primary. And currently, an unaffiliated voter would have to affiliate with a party in order to participate in that primary, and this removes that step for presidential primary elections. The proponents of this measure can be found at letcovote2016.com, and the opponents can be found on Facebook at colorado.caucus.news. Club 20 is supportive of this measure. And the last proposition we'll be seeing in November is regarding, again, primary elections, but this is regarding state primary elections, not the presidential primary. So this would change the primary election process in Colorado to allow unaffiliated voters to vote in a non-presidential primary election of a single political party. This would allow political parties to opt out of holding a primary election and instead choose their candidates via an assembly or by convention. So Proposition 108 would allow unaffiliated voters to participate in primary elections for the major political parties at the state and local levels. So that's how this is different than Proposition 107. Proposition 107 is regarding just presidential primaries, and Proposition 108 takes a closer look and is regarding just state and local primary elections. The proponents of Proposition 108 argue that Colorado has one of the fastest growing unaffiliated voter populations in the entire country. More than 1/3 of Colorado residents are choosing not to affiliate. Currently, they would have to affiliate with a political party in order to participate in that party's primary election. This measure would take that step out, and they would essentially affiliate at the time that they're filling out their ballot. Now, it's important to point out that an unaffiliated voter will not be able to vote for a Republican for one category and a Democrat for another category, back to a Republican and back to a Democrat. They would have to pick one side of the aisle and vote only on that one side. If they do not vote just for one party, then their vote will not count. If they're splitting it up, their vote will not be counted. The opponents for Proposition 108 have concerns that unaffiliated voters may try to sway elections to select a weaker candidate to go up against maybe their actual desired candidate. There's also concerns about the cost of letting unaffiliated voters participate in these state and local primaries as well. So the proponents can be found at letcoloradovote2016.com, and the opponents, I haven't been able to find a website for them for this particular measure, but they're listed on the Secretary of State's website as Citizens for Integrity Issue Committee. So please check out the Colorado Blue Book for more information on this initiative. That's it for the propositions and for this three-part series. We thank you so much for joining us. This series was brought to you by Club 20, the voice of Western Colorado. For more information on these propositions or on any of the ballot measures that we'll be seeing in November, please visit club20.org or visit the Secretary of State's office at sos.state.co.us. Additionally, you can send the text CO to VOTE, that's 28683, for links to the election information and voter registration. Thank you so much for joining us. Please vote in November and please be educated voters. We thank you once again. Thank you for joining us.